Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. This is John with Beginner Trading, and we're back today with my Sunday penny stock show. I've got a great guest coming on the show today, really talented professional trader, short bias trader, and so it'll be good to have that short biased opinion on the show today. Let's bring on my man, two-way trader. Let's see. All right, you're on, bro.
Hey.
What's up, brother?
Good. How you doing?
All right. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. What a crazy week we had this past week, man. We had some big crashes, some big drops. Penny stock market was nuts. How did you do this past week, brother?
It was actually a pretty good week. The market's actually been shifting, at least from a short buyer's perspective here. I think January and February were super hot. Looks like nothing would fall. Sure. And there's been a sudden shift in market sentiment that now, like for me, where I can really capitalize on my side, it's been working now. There's been, I think the last couple of days of last week, there's been a couple of like what we call like black swans that kind of squeezed up out of the blue. But other than that, it's been a pretty solid week.
Yeah, for sure. It was an interesting week. I did pretty well this past week as well. I had one saving trade, Friday that really helped my week. But yeah, it was certainly a good week. While we're letting everybody get rolling in here, usually it takes a few minutes, guys, to get everybody seated and kind of joining the stream. And so while we have a second, call out some stocks. We'll take a look at some call outs from the chat in these first, 2 to 5 minutes while we let everybody get in here. So yeah, y'all go ahead and call out some stocks and we'll take a look. What's up, Matt, Hyder, Arjun, KLR, Jay, Stockyard? What's up, guys? But yeah, give us some call outs, team. Oh, okay, there we go. I see Matt. I know there's a few stocks that I'm going to be looking at in a little bit. I'm just hoping that we get some holds. It was a really interesting market. There we go. I see some call outs now. We have G-Tech. Matt Shear wants to look at G-Tech. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do remember. I did not play because it's a pretty pricey stock, at least for me. Went up to like $26 here.
For sure.
But yeah, it's an interesting one because, like I said, a lot of these have been gapping up and failing quite nicely.
Right. Yeah, and this one especially, I remember this one specifically because this one had a tiny, tiny float. So like this one had it was like less than 2 million in the float. It had this ridiculous percentage move going up from like 760s all the way up to the 30s or 27s. And so a ridiculous move. And then it just dumped that morning. Yep. I remember specifically watching this one. A lot of people in my chat were getting hurt from this just huge drop in GTEC that we got. And so, yeah, it's certainly one that we can take a look at and watch for this upcoming week. I see some other people calling out APHA, which I know is cannabis. We can see APHA.
Mm-hmm. I had a really good trade on this one here.
Honestly, I used to love trading these cannabis stocks. They've all kind of gone too expensive on me, but I know I made some money with SNDL. A few weeks ago, one of my best swing trades ever. I made like 120%. And looking at APHA, the daily chart's not terrible. I think it's got to hold at 16. We have this nice down wick on the daily chart, if you guys can see that. And, when you have a down wick like this, it does indicate some buying pressure coming in there. But now that we're sitting right around 16, it's a major confirmed level on the chart. I do want to see it hold over that if we are going to get some continuation in APHA. But yeah, I think it's ultimately going to depend, like most cannabis stocks, on the on the cannabis sector as a whole, because most cannabis stocks are just going to trend with the sector. If the sector has a good week, cannabis stocks on average are going to have a good week. And so if you're looking at APHA, I would more so just watch the broader cannabis sector, if you will. But
yeah, I caught this one here back in February 2nd. There was really more of a momentum play. I think we talked about this, John, how, I got into swinging here recently. And I actually caught this one here just under $13, and I rode it up to about $30. So it was a pure momentum trade here, just from technical analysis aspect. It is definitely a weaker stock. So based the way I trade the swings, I definitely need to see it more of a trend reversal, going back at least above $20 before I start getting interested.
And that kind of makes sense too, especially from like a swing trading perspective, waiting for it to start breaking those highs. To be honest, for me, I'm not much of a swing trader myself. I think I got really lucky just trading off of the sentiment of cannabis stocks. But yeah, I'm certainly going to watch this one as well. Let me see. I see y'all are calling out some stocks. that we're going to look at later. And so for the time being, I'm going to pick some stocks that we're not going to look at earlier, just so we can switch it up a little bit. I see GHVI, ISUN. Let's take a look at these, and then we'll probably get started with the whole list after that. So GHVI, this looks like a recent IPO. Gore's Holdings Incorporated. Let me see exactly what this is, but it looks like an IPO to me just based off of the daily chart. Really don't know much about this one, and because it's so new, there's not really many things to play off of for this one, in my opinion. And I'd rather be honest about my overall look on it, which is that basically I have no idea what this one's about to do, than try to say something that, might not be completely right. But yeah, I'm seeing this one had the IPO back in January, I believe. It's either that or it switched. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it back in that IPO. That's a whole different setup, a whole different strategy. Trading IPOs, it definitely can be done, but it's something that's way outside of my wheelhouse.
Okay, I see Luke saying it's Matterport SPAC, so it's a special purpose acquisition company. Those have been really hot, but to be honest, I'm not the most knowledgeable on how you should trade SPACs, and so y'all gotta check out the SPAC show on Benzinga if y'all want more info on these. But with that said, though, guys, we're gonna start rolling into a few stocks that we're gonna look at today for the top stock movers. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, guys, so the first one that I really want to look at today, the first one that I find interesting that we're looking at specifically after hours is ANCN. Now, looking at ANCN here, this one has a nice amount of movement so far in after hours. The daily chart looks okay. It may be two-way. As a short bias trader, might have an opposing view on this one. But for me, ANCN, it's gapping up some in after hours. The volume looks decent relative to a lot of Friday after hours as well. And looking at the actual numbers for this one, it's gapping up, and it also has a pretty small float here. The float is 3 million. It's 3.09 million that I'm seeing. It's got a market cap of about 24.7 million and about 6.7 million in cash. A little bit of debt with 236K, but nothing super significant. How do you feel about this one, too? What do you think about ANCN here?
So I'm on the fence on this one here. Just looking at the daily, that this is something I love to trade.
Certainly.
Yeah, because this is like obviously back what was that big run that happened back in the 10th of February. Obviously, there's a lot of bag holders, in the way I trade here, and then looking at fundamentals, it does have a little bit of cash flow, just kind of like you mentioned. So they do have, a reason for it to go up. Now, I'm not seeing any type of shell, so now I don't see any type of dilution coming up anytime soon. Now, the only thing that I'm very hesitant about even trading this year is that float. 3 million float. It's a highly manipulated stock, or it can be manipulated. So if it has intensive volume, if it becomes kind of like the hot stock of the day, then I'm probably going to wait toward once the top is set and then look to short on the backside. But I'm not about to get in front of that freight train, because with the 3 million float, and they traded what back then that day, 46 million. I mean, that float got rotated tons of times. So I need to wait till the top has been set before I start really taking any positions. But yeah, this has a lot of daily bag holes in the daily. So there's a pop. Probably going to see a lot of resistance up to that 1055 line.
Right. And I hope you guys can learn from how he looks at this as a short bias trader. Of course, looking at this daily chart, it's a great looking daily chart for a short. But he also takes into consideration the float. And when you have a tiny float like this, you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm sure two-way is probably going to wait for the backside move if that does happen. So it's kind of about being patient, I think, in this regard. And I think that makes perfect sense, exactly what two-way said there about ANCN. But yeah, this is the first one on my list. Again, as a day trader myself, we got some movement here. I don't see any catalyst specific thing for this one. It could be based off of the medical sympathy that we have going on. There's a lot of medical stocks moving from last week, even going into eyes, which we'll look at a little bit later. But my guess is that this is just medical sympathy, being a medical stock. And we'll have to wait and see what happens with ANCN here. What do you guys think about ANCN? Let me know right now in the chat if you like that one. And we'll be taking some more call outs. We are going to look at some more call outs from the chat a little bit later. But for now, I did want to, go through the few stocks that we have on our list, as well as do the trade of the week and all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which I'm sure everybody's talking about. We're looking at EYES. This is one that I'm sure a lot of traders are interested in kind of watching and seeing this one at this point. We had this crazy parabolic rip this past what was this, Friday? So yeah, this past Friday, EYES went up from $1.40 in pre-market all the way up to almost $10, like $9.89. This thing's up, like 800% right now, or it was up to 800% at its highs. It's currently sitting just over the whole $1.05. And so I'm sure this is one that everybody's going to be watching at the opening bell tomorrow. What I see here for eyes is the company said the FDA approved the Argus 2 retinal prosthesis system. It's a redesigned set of external hardware initially for use in combination with previously implanted Argus systems for the treatment of retinitis pigmentosa. And so it's a medical stock as well, probably what's causing a lot of the other sympathy moves today. What do you think about this one, Two-Way?
So this one here, listen, I got to trade a little bit of this one here. It's definitely a tough one from the short side. So some of the things I noticed about this one here is that obviously the float was pretty tiny, right? About 13 million. And then on top of that, I mean, look at how much it traded that day. Or was it around 739 million? So again, that float got rotated, I don't know how many times. I can't even do the math on demand on that one there, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And the thing about that is, if you look back especially in a small cap world, Friday morning, there was really nothing running. So it was a pretty dead day. This was about the only thing that had all the crowds in here. So my buddy and I, my team, we're trading this in the afternoon, and we just saw a bunch of algos, a bunch of like big block trades happening on the tape. And that's what we knew. There's too many games. So we just had to wait for some of these little high day clear outs or some of the mini micro clear outs to happen for us to get short. So it was a little bit tougher to trade.
Oh, certainly. It's an interesting thing when everybody's eyes are on just one specific stock, you kind of see crazy moves like this. And especially like as a short bias trader, this is one of those ones that you got to be really careful with. Just like we said for what was the last one we looked at that had the tiny float? Maybe
ANCN.
Yeah, just like we were saying with ANCN, a very small float can be a lot of risk for short bias traders. And I hope you guys, again, if you're looking to get into the shorting game, you certainly have to pay attention to floats. And especially, like he said, you got to pay attention to the overall market volume that day, what everybody's eyes are on, to kind of judge that type of sentiment. And I think that's a really good thought process to understand from Two-Way here. And so, yeah, we'll watch this one. Where do you guys think? I'm looking at the level of $5. So I think $5 is a previously confirmed support level, at least even just in after hours so far from Friday. You can see it's bounced off of $5 about 2 or 3 times already, maybe more than that. And so I think $5 underneath this is going to be a relevant level just to see if it holds over that spot. I think it's going to be a big sentiment changing level. If it breaks under that, we might get some weakness. And yeah, we got a lot of areas from Friday to watch about this one as well. So
yeah. And I like that because when you mentioned $5, I was looking at the tape after hours on this one here, and there was a lot of big orders happening around that $5 mark. So tomorrow, depending if there's anything else is running or if this doesn't have any news, once that $5, if it does give up, it's going to be a bloodbath basically. So everybody's going to be looking for tomorrow. What is the next eyes? Is it eyes or is it something else? Right? If it's something else that's running, everybody's going to forget about eyes, and it's going to give it that 5 and probably fade the rest of the time.
Right, 100%. And another dynamic is like, what are all the other medical stocks doing? If this is what's causing, ANCN to run, you can see ANCN here, the one we just looked at. Is that going to influence more medical stocks? Are we going to have more sympathy plays in the medical sector? I know we saw one ears, was running. And before I realized they were related in sympathy moves, I thought we were in a simulation for a second. We had eyes and ears both running at the same time. I said, are we in the matrix here? But yeah, same sector. And so we'll see if there's a nose stock that comes out tomorrow. And seriously, though, we'll see if the medical sympathy holds, and we'll get some momentum in the medical field, in the medical sector tomorrow. Let us know if you guys have any suggestions for sympathy moves with ears and now I guess HEAR.
Okay. And keep an eye on that there. Just the last thing, because they do run in tandem. Anytime when eyes runs, ears runs as well. So if you're going to be trading either one of them, especially let's say if you wanted to be trading ears, use eyes as your, it's kind of like the head of the snake. So as your guide. So if ears is going to be following exactly what eyes is doing, just like another stock we're going to be talking about here shortly, or a couple of
for
stocks.
sure. And it's one of my favorite ways to trade. You know, I've always said, like, if you're getting into the market and you're just now learning how to trade, I think understanding sympathy plays and how you can kind of exploit some money from different sympathy or from different sectors in sympathy plays moving. I think that's a really good way for new traders to start to look at stories in the market. And so I think, I think it's really good info for new traders to understand regarding all this. Hey, what's up, Daniel? I see you in the chat. Yeah, I got you, Daniel. Once we're done looking at the movers for today, I got you, bro. So CCL, yeah, we'll take a look at that one. But yeah, so the next one we're going to talk about is one that, again, I'm sure everybody knows this stock now. It has also sympathy plays that are moving with it. And I still haven't really figured out the catalyst for SLGG. And so that's the next stock. We're looking at SLGG here. I don't even know if this one has a catalyst, but I know it's in the esports world. I think this one came out with the catalyst, I believe it was a week or two ago, that said it was selling the WPT. I believe SLGG was the owners of the WPT, which is the World Poker Tour for all my poker fans out there. I love poker. I know they sold that, and I think I might be looking at the wrong stock, but I know one of these esports stocks had another buyout offer that was in the mix that was pushing it up last week. If it wasn't SLGG, let me look around to see if that was it. So
yeah, I'm not. I didn't. Yeah, I did. I do see it. There's Super League gaming rallies on increased volume, but I mean, when this ran, there really was no news tied to it. It just came out of the blue.
Right. And so we're looking at SLGG. I can't find the catalyst here, but yeah, we're certainly looking at SLGG, and I think there's some interesting spots right around us right now. We have $6, which is, you know, a whole dollar. We're sitting right under that. We have $5, which was a previously confirmed level. Looking into these charts right here at $5, right under this wick here, which shows some buying pressure. But again, I mean, looking into this, I need to figure out why this one's actually moving. What do you think of SLGG2?
You know, this was another gamey one. This is actually one of the other ones that was really difficult to trade because when, you know, the first day it ran, and this is something we're going to be talking about a little bit later on here, but, you know, this is where you need to be careful when it looks like it's dead. And that's where you need to start really identifying the behavior and change of how the stock changes in its behavior. You know, it's really trading illiquid. It looks like a broken stock. Next, you know, there's something in change in the trading pattern, and this is where it's squeezed. And this guy sucked in tons of shorts. I know that we got pumped by a couple other chat rooms. So, and again, it was another dead day. SLGG was the only thing running. So when it's the only thing running, that's where all the eyes, that's where all the momentum of the small cap world went to.
Right. For sure. And really, I figured out exactly why this one moved. Okay, so basically what happened here is it wasn't SLGG. It was actually AESE, which had this big buyout offer. So they were actually the ones that were selling the World Poker Tour. So it wasn't SLGG. And I'm pretty sure SLGG was just moving up in sympathy with AESE, which was kind of the alpha stock in that sector. It was the sparking stock that caused the sympathy with all the other esports leagues and all that stuff. So yeah, so AESE is an entertainment company, and they had an offer from Bally's that came out last week for $100 million in cash. They already had a $78.25 million offer for equity interests of their subsidiary club services, which includes the WPT. But yeah, so that's actually the sparking catalyst, which is interesting. I really just found that out just now. So yeah, so that's, I guess, what's moving a lot of these esports leagues is just sympathy from AESE, and we can see AESE here. Yeah. The interesting part, and what I'm assuming is going on here, is that let me check to see if I can confirm that. So yeah, the float of AESE is almost 7 million, so just about 7 million. And the float of SLGG is 15.6 million. So they're both pretty small floats. What's your bias on SLGG?
So, you know, for me, it's SLGG is going to be really determine what ACE is going to do, right? Because on Thursday, when it was running, both of them were running in tandem. When SLGG were one, ACE will follow right behind that. So when I'm looking at the fundamentals here for SLGG, one of the things that's interesting to me is that It has about 2.2 months left of cash. So they don't have a lot of money left there to run its operations. So they do have a pretty nice shelf of about 11 million left with a market cap about 190. So it's not as significant, but at least it's something that's going to be able to basically sell paper. So this was actually executed back in February of this year. So they're going to be looking to probably get some more liquidity out there in order to dump some more if they haven't. Unfortunately, I can't see the quarterly earnings, the most recent, so we can't really tell if they use it all. But that's something to keep in mind. If it's going to be a pop, there's still no news, this is something going to be interested to short back into the 910s looking at the daily.
Right, for sure. And I hope you guys understand that thought process as well. It's actually looking back to see what they have on their books, see if you're going to get hit with an offering anytime soon, and really see if the company can make some money at least from that. And the offering might drag the price up or down, but at least the company is going to get some money in the books that they can thus, invest more back into their business to help push the stock up more. And so it's an interesting thought process, guys. And it's one of the good things that, you have from having like a talented short trader like Two-Way on the show is that he'll show you both sides to where, a lot of the times I'm just talking about the common pitfalls with going long, where Two-Way can talk about the common pitfalls of going short, which again will help you be a better long trader as well. And that's one of the things you realize as a trader when you really start to go more in depth with it. And so, the basic, what we're trying to say here is watch the esports stocks Monday. We'll see if they can make some moves here. And we're certainly going to be watching SLGG. We're certainly going to watch AESE. And I think I made some money with AESE last week, if I remember correctly. It was either last week or the week before. I'm assuming it was back here mid-February. It could have been, I guess, on the 4th or so. I'll have to go back and check my stats. But, we're certainly watching those gaming stocks. To look into another one here, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions on this stock right now, and I don't want to be divisive or anything like that, but I do think it's an interesting story in this current market, specifically talking about SOS here, guys. So SOS, I'm going to go tell you guys and run you through the story of SOS if you guys do not know already. So what happened with SOS is that about a week ago, if I remember correctly, it was about a week or two ago, Hindenburg Research, they're a short firm. They put out a short report on SOS. They basically said that they were skeptical of their business, that it was actually a hotel, and they said a bunch of other defaming things about SOS. And so naturally, when that happened, SOS dropped. You can see, I guess this was back late February. Then, and this is a Bitcoin mining stock, guys. Then SOS put out a report basically disputing what they said, basically saying, hey, this isn't true. And they actually gave some verifiable proof that they are who they say they are, and they are doing some things that they say they're doing to cause some of this bullish rips in the stock. And so with this one, I don't hate the technicals. The technicals aren't terrible. I know we have that short report looming, but again, I think the report they put back out did kind of it did show them that they are at least somewhat legit in that following report. And you do have to understand with a lot of these short firms, they're trying to drop the stock. That's their goal, is to drop the stock. And so I'm not saying you should buy SOS. To be honest, I think this one's going to move a lot with Bitcoin as a whole because it's a mining stock. So Bitcoin goes up, this one will go up. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen with it. What do you think about SOS, T?
So this one's, it's another tricky one here. I don't believe this is any type of investment whatsoever. I guess we're not giving any type of investment advice, but at least for me and my bank accounts, I'm not going to be doing this as any type of long-term investments. And the reason why is because when I'm looking at their 10Qs, they stating that majority of their financing is coming from offerings, right? So if that tells you that any type of press releases or anything that's tied to anything they're doing right now, they're not making any money. So the only money they're coming is through these offerings. So for me, it's more of a day trade. So if you're going to be going long or short, just nail and bail, take your opportunities and get out. But this, again, it's every time it pops, they're doing offerings left and right. So there's a lot of action, a lot of different moving parts in this here. So if you're not too familiar, like what's going on, this is where you're going to get hurt, right? So if you just buy into one story and think that's, that's going to take it to the moon, don't try to oversimplify things. Look a little bit deeper and try to figure out what's going on, especially when it comes to these small caps, because there's more information out there. And then you'll be able to identify, is this something I can maybe swing? Is this just a day trade? I'm going to scalp it? Really identify what's the best way to approach it. So this one here, it is definitely something that's going to be on my radar. If it pops, especially when we still have a couple of more shelves out there, they're going to be unloading here soon.
Right, for sure. And I like that mindset. And basically protect yourself with this one. It could go up, it could also go down.
Right.
100%. And I'm certainly there with you. We'll see. Like I said, I think if Bitcoin rips, we might get some movement in this. But I think there's a lot of other Bitcoin stocks as well. And I think that short report is going to loom over it too. So we'll see what happens with this one. Okay, so and then I do want to look at AMC really quickly here. The real question I want to ask the chat, I don't know what's going to happen here with AMC. It is a penny stock, but we've had two neutral days over the last few days. On Thursday and Friday, we're both basically neutral sideways days. Prior to that, we had a little bit of a downtrend. I'm not saying AMC is going to go down. I know we got a lot of AMC bag holders, which is okay. Like I said, I think AMC, you might have a little bit better success bag holding AMC than you will with GameStop. But the question is, do you think AMC is done? Do you think it's going to hold over $8? Let us know right now in the chat. Is AMC done here, guys? Looking at the daily chart, looking at the daily chart, I think $8 is a crucial level. I think we have, if you zoom in here and we look at this daily chart, we do have some prior support underneath us at around 7 to 750. We're at about 790s right now, just under $8. And so, yeah, I mean, do you guys think this one's done? I genuinely don't know. All I know is I want to see it hold over $8, especially 750. And what do you think about this one too?
Yeah, so this one here, again, the way your approach is you have to approach it from a technical analysis, right, Eric? Because everybody knows the story about AMC, what's happening fundamentally, right? What causes rip. So at this point, you really have to look at the technical. So what I'm looking here in the daily from a short buyer's perspective, it's going to be that gap fill around 1290s. You can see back in February 1st, it just dumped. So it looks like it's going to be doing a gap fill there. So that's where I'm going to be looking to go short. So this is definitely going to be a key area of resistance. So if you can get over that hump, then we can kind of see another move towards the highs on the daily chart. But until that can happen, it can chop around. Who knows what can happen? So you just got to pick your spots as to where you're going to see the supports or resistance come to play on the daily.
Right. Makes perfect sense for sure. And I'm seeing some people in the chat as well. We have, I'm very pessimistic with AMC. I think it's going to drop less than 8. And then we have another one that says going up, theaters are opening soon. And I understand both sides. I'm not investing in this right now. And so I'm not necessarily against this one, but I do understand both sides. And I think that longer term theaters will probably open up. Going outside of technicals, I think longer term theaters will probably open back up and we'll get that rolling. And I think it's natural to see a jump in this type of stock once that actually happens. But there's too many unknowns for me to be super confident in it right now. But I certainly understand both sides for sure.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if there's anybody who's long in this year, if they're holding a position on baby underwater, have an exit plan. Right, because I actually had a conversation, and I'm sure, John, you'll be getting tons of calls from family members, your friends you never heard from years. I'm like, dude, what about AMC? What about Jimmy? Should I get in there? Everybody's trying to get into the stock game now with this stimulus, I think, package that's coming out here. There's going to be more money that's coming back here to everybody out there. So there's probably going to be an influx of more money coming in here. So just be mindful of having an exit plan, because honestly, if you go back before everything happened, what was your overall feeling when it came to, in this case, AMC? With the pandemic happening, all the theaters are shutting down. Now you start seeing a lot of the new movies pivoting over to streaming services, right? So it really felt like AMC or that industry was kind of falling off. And just a lot of the millennials, a lot of the young crowds, they don't like going to the movies like they used to. They'd be able to just pay $20 for a movie and just enjoy it there. So unless they're looking to pivot their overall, I guess their business model, they're going to have a struggle. So keep that big picture in mind. If you see that it's going to be they're going to be changing how they're going to restructure their business, then you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. If they're not doing anything and it's just pure momentum, based on everything happened, have an exit strategy in place just in case. Plan for the worst.
100%. Like, just pick out a good level and stick to that level. And it's interesting. Like, I've had my mom reach out to me, and what I tell my mom is the same thing I tell people on my stream. We day trade live on stream every weekday morning for free on YouTube. So I'll post that link in a little bit. We day trade live, trading some of these stocks every day. But what I tell my mom is that if you're hearing about it outside the stock market, it's probably too late. it's probably too late. Not always, there's going to be outliers there, but if you're hearing about it outside the stock market, it's probably already made its move. you know, but yeah, so I think it's an interesting thing to watch for sure. And it's certainly good for me over in the YouTube business because tons of new traders are getting invested in the stock market. But, there is some craziness with it. And, time will tell. We'll see. I can understand both sides of that as well. All right. So the next one we're going to look at, guys, or the next section of this show is we are going to look at one called the penny stock trade of the week. Since I have my boy Two-Way here today, we are going to let him do the honors of going over his favorite trade from this past week as a short bias trader. And so let's go ahead and do the penny stock trade of the week now. All right, guys, Two-Way, take it away, bro.
Perfect. So, my best trade that happened this week, and John, should I go ahead and just show my chart if it's easier?
Sure, if you want to. Yeah, absolutely, man. If you want to, either that or you can narrate me through it. Either way is fine.
Perfect.
Completely up to
so let's go ahead and pull up the chart here back on March 1st of this March 1st of this year. Perfect.
Okay.
And the thing that I wanted to talk about here is really identifying the order flow. Right, that's going to be the big thing there. Anybody who's been in a small cap world, especially the last 2 months, a lot of these stocks have been gapping up, holding their gains and ripping up even further, or it may pull back a little bit, hold the key support, but the volume is pretty consistent, and then it kind of takes off from there. Right now, in the last about 2 weeks or so, it looks about everything there's two things that have been happening. There's been a lot less gappers happening in pre-market. We used to have maybe like 20 gapping quite a bit. The volume was insane pre-market. Now you'll be lucky if you're having something, at least one or two that's going to be opening strong into the opening, right? So everybody's looking for the next big ripper, right, to go to the moon. So a couple things you need to be mindful. Be mindful as far as how the market is shifting. Especially if you come into the market and you start seeing there's not a lot going on, everybody's going to one stock there, or where's the crowd? You need to be mindful as far as soon as they pull the money out of that one stock and it's the only thing running, it can definitely fall back down from there. So looking back at that day here, one of the things I was noticed that ASLN, there wasn't a lot of things happening, right? When I pull up the fundamentals here, it really fit a lot of my strategies. So it had a pretty small float, about 6 million there, had a market cap at around 100 million. And then looking at the daily chart, at the time, it was breaking out over pre-market high, but there has been a lot of, I'm sorry, not pre-market high, but it was breaking out a 52-week period. There's been a lot of faders with the 52-week periods, right? So this one here, the parts that I loved about here is that it had no percentage when it came to short float. There is a very low percentage when it comes to institution ownership. And then when it comes to the fundamentals, as far as cash, they had no cash whatsoever. They had less than 1 month available of cash before they run out of business. So again, looking at the quarterly earnings here, they said the majority of the money comes from offerings, right? So you looking at the fundamentals, looking at the chart, looking at what's going on, you're just really painting the picture. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. But you're making a trade plan off of that. So when I saw all these things kind of line up, and I saw that it was kind of put in the top, there's a few things that I actually noticed. And if you zoom in the chart there, at pre-market, there is a key level that I noticed between about the 760s up to the pre-market high, right? So one of the key things that I look at, because after this massive rip, one of the key things I look at is the tape, okay? I know there's a lot of people, talking about that's kind of like the holy grail. Oh, if I can read the tape, I'll be able to make millions or whatnot. No, it's not the end all be all. It's just another piece of the puzzle, right? Well, around that 760, 770, I saw massive blocks coming in that was buying throughout that level around 760, 770s. And I just see them. There was like 15, 20, 30,000 blocks coming in at one order. So I noticed that. So once it couldn't push the last push, you can see there at the pre-market high, when it got there, it just wasn't enough volume to kind of push it through. So at that time, I saw when it cracked right under the 760s. That's when I started noticing people or the big blocks starting to sell their positions. That's when I took a position right around 777 and started writing it down. Okay, so when you start seeing the tape that these guys who are building the big blocks, once it broke that support line, I started seeing the same big orders starting to unload because they weren't able to prop it up. Okay, now the other piece that we actually caught, it was at the open. There was one little pop that happened. It was really interesting because at 9:30, John, there was over a 200. I actually have my notes here. There was over a 270,000 block order that came in at $6.47. So it kind of tanked under about the 630s, and there was even more big blocks coming in there, kind of holding the support level there. So there was coming at 20,000, 50,000, right around the 630s. As soon as it pushed into the 670s, they started unloading there. The tape just got really fast, and it was red. And finally, when it broke that 630s level, you can just see the unwind and the big blocks coming in there. So this is just, one of the things you need to be mindful as far as like, yes, you can see the chart, what's happening there. But if you can kind of get behind the big boys out there, the smart money, and see what they're doing, as soon as you see it happens, you can start formulating a plan and just get behind that. And it's not a guarantee, but it's a good educated guess based on the fundamentals, looking how much, they're bleeding money. They have an offering or a shelf out there offering. You can see the orders coming in there. You kind of put it all together and it turned out to be a really good win. And then you can see just fade it off from there.
Yeah, for sure. Great all-day fader. And I hope you guys can hear how two-way, he doesn't just trade stuff because it looks good. With his trades, he's trying to give himself the best probabilities to win, right? And so what he does is he creates this thorough list of different checks that, okay, am I doing this? This is good. What's the float size? Does it have offerings on the table? Are big traders coming in? And when you combine all those things, like he said, it's not always going to work, but you're certainly going to have a higher probability to win in that type of trade than one that you're just taking away, just a very subjective, just impulsive trade, if you will. This is not that. And with two-way as a professional trader, he's making sure all his checks are in balance, and that everything's good before he's jumping in. And again, you can see it was a beautiful all-day fade for ASLN, and he was able to nail it. So I hope you guys are picking that up and understanding, build a full trading plan with these trades you get into. Don't just trade something because it looks good. That's what a lot of new traders do. They trade stuff because it looks good, because the chart looks good or whatever it is. Have a thorough trading plan, not even just with fundamentals, but risk reward targets, stop, all that good stuff. And if you do, you're going to have more edge in your trading. You're going to find more edge in your trading as a whole.
Now, here's the beautiful thing about it is that you can actually take the strategy and flip it on the other side on the long. Because I see somebody talking about eyes there again. Eyes did the exact same thing. So if you just look and before you switch it over there, John, but go back to ASLN again. If you look at the chart, that right there, you can see that it had a massive move. And then look how much range, we call this in my group, how much meat is left from the bone. Okay, so once it broke down under that 770s, look where it came from. It has a lot of room to come back down, right? So same thing when it comes to eyes, right? So when eyes ran and it hit those highs, it had a lot of range to come into, but the key difference here was that it was above VWAP. Okay, so everybody's looking, VWAP is a very crucial indicator there. If you don't understand it, keep it simple, is that if it's above VWAP, it usually means it's a bullish trend. And if it's under VWAP, it's a bearish trend. So who's in control? The bears or the bulls, right? So in this one here on eyes, same thing there. It had a massive rip, came back down and started looking like it was actually a broken stock. But then right around, I think, what was it? Let me pull up the chart here as well. It was late in the afternoon, right before it ripped. It's right around the $6 and the 570s there, John. It looked like it was going to come to VWAP. It looked like it was dead. The liquidity was really dying off, and it was going to just tank all day. That's when a lot of the block orders start coming back in again, 10,000, 50,000. I think there was one for 100,000 that came in as well. And it just kept on holding it there. Next
Right.
thing you know, that's if you start seeing these patterns, change of patterns of the stock behavior, I could
Right.
literally see when the algo kicked in. Okay,
Mhm.
and that was actually around the about the 238 mark. The
Right.
tape went from a trickle, right, to an instant, like it just went nutty.
Right.
All these
Right.
orders started flushing in, and it was all these little specific prints that I noticed there that I actually see that the algo is kicked in. So now they're
Right.
kind of showing your hand as far as what's going on. You can see the big blocks coming in prior to that. Next, you know, the algo kicks in. Boom! That's an opportunity for you to go long and short or squeeze out all the shorts who were basically shorting it back in the high days.
Right. And it makes perfect sense too. Once the algorithms get involved, they can help prop that up some too. So it makes a lot of sense. And you can see guys like the VWAP is something I talk about all the time. The VWAP is incredibly valuable. You know, people don't understand how valuable it really is. A lot of people will come to me and they'll say, hey, you know, the VWAP doesn't work. Stocks are just crossing over and under it. They're not respecting it. And the logic there, guys, is that if a stock is doing that, if a stock is not respecting the VWAP, then it's neutral. It's sideways. It's telling you, that's what it's telling you. You know, it's telling you it's sideways. And so regardless of whether a stock's holding over it, underneath it, sideways, the VWAP's a milestone level. And that's the big thing that, especially with these penny stocks, like mid and high caps, they might trend in ranges really obviously. And penny stocks do as well. But especially with penny stocks, the VWAP is a huge milestone level, you know, and, you know, a lot of the time penny stocks are more manic. So they'll rip up and, you know, a big line in the sand is at the VWAP level. So it makes a lot of sense that you watch it that way too. And yeah, I certainly think it's a good perspective for a lot of traders to get. I see Aline saying your screen is blurry. Would white background help? So if you're blurry, it's probably on your end. You just want to refresh the screen.
Right.
It's probably not on our end. It's most likely on yours. So yeah, just hit the refresh button and you should be okay. And you might be able to switch it to 1080p at the bottom as well. And so yeah, guys, that is what we have so far over all the stocks and, you know, the trade of the week, the penny stock trade of the week. For the next 5-10 minutes, maybe if you guys want to give us some more call outs, I know we got a few in the chat that we can go over. Appreciate the analysis, guys. Hey, no worries. So yeah, so I see a few people. So I'm going to preface this with, guys, like, I'm not an expert as always. And I try to be honest with you guys. So if you're giving me OTC stocks, they're really not my wheelhouse, so to speak. I'm not really trading OTC stocks consistently. They're way too much risk for me as a trader. I don't know if two-way handles those, but I can look at them, but you know.
No, it's OTCBB. You know, that's a lot of people gravitate there because it's so cheap. But just
Right.
keep in mind when it comes to OTCC, BB, if you think Nasdaq is manipulated, this is even worse.
Right.
Because it's
100%.
one of the most unregulated sections there. So at least with the Nasdaqs and the New York Stock Exchange or the NYSE, they have to follow the SEC by the different filings and this and that the other. When it comes to OTC or pinks, there is really no regulation. It's the Wild Wild West. And I've seen, John, some of these filings when they actually have to, when they put any type of quarterly earnings, if they do, I've seen that they're actually handwritten.
Right.
So
I believe it.
so
I believe
bad.
it.
Yeah. It is so bad. So I stay away
believe
from that because I can't trust any of that.
Right. A lot of time with trading, you need stability, at least some. Even in penny stocks, they might not be the most stable, but they're certainly stable enough to take profits in a good, you know, a favorable probability way, if you will. OTC, it's more, from my understanding, it's more hype, pump, crash. And I'm not saying they're not going to succeed. I'm not, you know, honestly, most of the penny stock or most of the OTC call outs we've gotten, the daily chart doesn't look that bad. I don't know if I like this one. But you know, if I'm looking at it, it's certainly not overbought right now, I guess. So I don't mind this drop, and I don't mind this previous high holding right here at about 25 cents. And so with that said, I would look at like 25 cents. For me, again, this is coming from somebody that is not a specialist in OTC. I'm just kind of analyzing this like I would anything else. That $0.25 level, you know, big psychological level, and I'm pretty sure that's probably universally true in penny stocks as well. Just the $0.25, $0.50, you know, 25 cents, 50 cents, $1, 75 cents. Those levels are going to hold a little bit more sway than just random levels, just because they're big psychological measurement levels. And so with E and ZC sitting just over 25 cents, or really holding at 25 cents before this latest push, I don't think that's a terrible range to watch. But again, it's not really my style, if you will, you know.
Right.
We got some
Looks like
other
somebody's
ones.
asking about quite a bit about ONTX on the
Yeah,
chat.
sure. Yeah. Let me find it. ONTX. Okay, I see. I'll see one with ONTX, so I'm just gonna click on his name, Jose. So yeah, ONTX is one I think we've all traded at least multiple times before. What do you think about this one too?
I like it. I like it a lot because
Right.
one of the things that I looked at the daily chart is anytime it gaps up, is there be a big wick? Anybody kind of looks at candlestick chart, if they have a small body and a big tall wick, a topping
Right.
wick, that tells me there was a lot of selling pressure in there, right? So I've
Right.
traded ONTX in the past there. It usually kind of gaps and fails. Typically, sometimes may not be a 1 day, but it tends to fail off. And
Right.
the one of the other reasons that I like is just again looking at the fundamentals. It has a float of 173 million, so it's actually grown over the last several months. But
Right.
here's what I love about this here: when I'm looking at their filings, right? They have a hard time making money. Okay, so each quarter, they've been about 4 million, 5 million, 7 million in net income. However, they still got quite a bit of cash on hand. They had in one quarter 4 million, the other one they had 31 million. The next quarter they had 27 million. So like, where is that money coming from? Okay,
Right.
so when you look at one of the my favorite websites that I go to is BAMSEC, I can see that they have tons of different offerings from a few
Right.
different shelves. And some of the underwriters that they use are pretty well-known underwriters that usually is one of my favorites to short into. So
Right.
from a daily perspective, if this guy's going to pop, especially if it's under $2, this is something I'm going to be interested to short into pops. If it breaks over that $2, now it's a 52-week breakout, right? I'm not too, I don't like those too much. I don't
Right.
expect an all-day fader, but if it stays under 2, pops up, and it has an offering out there, then it's probably going to be rejected and fade all day from there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I see it. It's sitting right around ONTX is sitting right over $1 too. So I think that'll be a relevant level as well here. Just looking to see if it can hold over $1, which it has some, but it also has been big swings, and we'll see if it holds at that spot as well. But again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I hope you guys really learn how he's making his thought process behind, or how his thought process is with identifying strength and weakness as a short bias trader. What he likes. A lot of the times, two-way will not like a lot of institutional ownership, and he will not like a lot of short traders getting involved. And if you want to explain why, you can. But yeah, it's certainly different things he watches for a lot of these different stocks.
Yeah, two red flags that I really look for, and to see if this is not going to be a trade for me. One is going to be the short flow. If anybody's seen the whole GME thing, that's a pretty indication as to why I don't want. So if there's a significant percentage when it comes to the short flow percentage, especially if it's, let's say, 20%, 30%, I'm not even going to touch it, not even with your account, John. So,
Right.
I stay away from those altogether. The other thing is
Yeah,
going to
for
be
sure.
the institutional ownerships. If it's over 40%, I may not trade it, but I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. Okay, so I have an A plus, a B plus, and a C plus setup, right? So if I see this as, let's say, like a 80% institutional ownership, I may consider this more of a B or a C. So I'm going to do a nail and bail. And what that
Right.
means is that basically there's a lot of let's call it hedge funds out there, and all the big companies out there, investors who have outside interest in this company to go up in price. Right. So if that's the case, and you got big money out there, smart money, I don't want to be betting against that. So I would rather wait for when there's an opportunity for me, or just take my money and run. So anytime I see those two things with a high percentage, I usually ignore it or just trade it very lightly.
Right. And it makes tons of sense, because you don't want to be competing with those institutions out there. They'll do whatever they can to keep those stocks up if they've got a high institutional ownership, and so it makes perfect sense, especially after the whole craziness we had with GameStop. I see somebody, and Jose saying he's holding some, and they have 3 conferences this month. And so, yeah, short term, maybe those conferences might make it pop. Maybe they won't, and we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think either of us are necessarily against ONTX, and maybe it'll get some pops from there. But I think we're just looking at major levels to determine where the most edge with our own strategies are. And yeah, I
Yeah,
hope
they
you
got
guys
some
can.
conference calls. Just be mindful of the term, buy the rumor, sell the news.
Right,
That's one of the
100%.
main strategies I go off of. If I see that it's popping and there's a conference call coming up in the next hour, guess what I'm going to be doing after once the call it goes in? Probably going to be shorting it.
Right, for sure, for sure. I see my man Daniel over there calling out CCL. And yeah, CCL is one. It's not a penny stock, guys, so but we'll still take a look at it. I think it's an interesting. I think this is an interesting sector, and to look at the daily chart as a whole right now, we are getting a pullback. We're at 2650s. We got some support at 2520s down here. The previous high of the last year was right around 2520s. So we've got some support underneath us, some relevant, obvious support levels underneath us, and so that's usually what I pivot to if I'm kind of analyzing these on a technical basis. Now, I think the more interesting one to the more interesting dynamic here is looking at the cruise ship business as a whole and how that is going to be affected by COVID. I think I think it's similar to movie theaters, and it's similar to all these other ones to where as the economy rolls back to a more normal state, we might see cruise get a little bit higher. Although the daily chart's been pretty strong since this crash, and really we're back over pre-COVID levels, I believe here. Let me see. Okay, so no, we're not. We're not anywhere close, to be honest. But that gives us some more room on the upside that we could potentially watch to see if we do start to get back to how it was before. Maybe this thing will fill some more of this gap. You can still see the gap here. The initial crash was right here. And so we still got, maybe up to $40 before we start running into pre-crash resistance up there. So that's kind of what I'm watching for CCL. I think it's got some room on the upside. I think it's going to be somewhat unstable with the fundamental, story behind Carnival cruise ships and all that stuff. What do you think about this one too?
Yeah, so this one will be something I would trade on my swing account. However, I don't think it's set up yet. Okay, just like you mentioned, those key levels there. I think there's need in order for it to continue get over that $30 mark. There needs to be some more consolidation. Okay, so one of the things I keep it simple when it comes to swing trading. One of the things I look for is just like these bull flags. Okay, so I know a lot of these people are very familiar, but if you just kind of look at it on the daily chart, John, you can see back in, I think it was about December 9th, where it peaked. There's a clear little trend line that you can actually draw out on the downside, right? And this is one of the things that I look for is like when I can see that it kind of either consolidated, the range is getting really tight, right? As soon as it breaks up with some volume, I'm going to be taking it long. So you can see it kind of broke out from that trend line from right around 12.9 all the way down to, I think it broke out at February 2nd is when it kind of broke out of that with the not so much volume, but it had some continuation right afterwards. Those are the things I look for there. So this one here, I think it needs to consolidate at least another week or so to kind of show that this little leg up to 30 is still intact for the next push up.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And you can see how he's looking at this from like a trend basis, like uptrend, downtrend, uptrend.
Right.
And so he wants to see some more, if it's going to maintain this upward trend and not start running down, it needs more healthy consolidation, if you will. And that makes perfect sense too. But yeah, I hope that, I don't hate this one as well, Daniel. So we'll see what happens, brother. I appreciate all the support. Daniel is a made man over there in my stream, from, I've been charging people for push-ups over there, and, he's bought a lot of push-ups. So nice. Shout out to Daniel, made man over there in my stream. But yeah, so I'll go over this last one, and then we're probably going to close it down. We're looking at TRCH. We got to be quick with it. We only got about 2 minutes left of the show. TRCH, this is one I've traded a lot the last few weeks. This is one. Okay, so no, TRXC switched ticker names. This one did not. Let me look into TRCH and just get a refresher on this one. Torchlight. Okay, so they had some news early February that boosted this thing up, and it's still kind of recovering back down from that. So I don't know much about this sector right now. Torchlight Energy. I want to see it hold over $2. $2, that $2 level up to 250 makes the most sense to me, kind of watching that range. And I think I talked about it before. What do you think of this one too?
Oh man, I'm going to add this to my watch list.
Okay.
Just looking at there, you can see how we just kind of gapped up to almost $5 with huge volume and then just kind of faded off from there. So unfortunately, there's been day traders who got turned into or forced into investors. So, as soon as it gets popped back up to that $5 level, I'd definitely be interested looking at the fundamentals. It fits in right into my wheelhouse to a T.
Right, for sure. Hey, and it makes sense. It makes sense for sure, guys. Well, yeah, y'all give Two-Way a thank you. If you want to give anybody a shout out or anything like that too, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a junior moderator over at My Investing Club. So that's where you're going to see me. I do still sit in John's Discord, so you can still ping me there if you want. So you can have any questions, can help you out. But we always do a free webinar every Tuesday at 2 p.m. market time, and we get to see some of the big traders out there, like Bao, who is Modern Rock, Alex Temez, who's AT09. And T. Bradley 90, who are mentors over at My Investing Club. So I'm a junior moderator there. Great club. We don't just do short buy small caps, but we also do options. We do swing trading. A lot of big caps there. So we got a lot of great traders out there. And there's a great opportunity for you to go in and jump on our stream and get to see what we have to do, which is this coming Wednesday at 2 p.m.
Yeah, certainly. So y'all check that out. I posted the link in the chat right here. Yeah, check out MIC. I know they're a pretty talented group of traders over there. A lot of big time traders that have, made a lot of money in the stock market. You can learn some things from them. Go check them out there in the description right now. You can also go sub to my channel over at Beginner Trading. We day trade live on stream every weekday morning for free right here on YouTube as well. And if you want to sub to that, let me get the link here and we'll post that as well. Make sure to run those like numbers up on this stream. I certainly had a lot of fun. And yeah, like I said, definitely thank Two-Way for being here. I certainly appreciate all of it, guys. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Here's my link. So go sub to both of these channels in the chat. And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.
All right.
And
Cool.
Good luck in the markets, guys. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, bro.